Hello and welcome back to Florida Foodie. I'm your host, Lisa Bell. Today's guests got their start after spending years working in retail. The loss of a job and the desire for a good New York-style bagel led them to an unplanned business. Their bagels became a hit, with the couple selling them right out of their home at one point. Now they are getting ready to open their second brick-and-mortar location in less than a year. So we are very happy to be joined today by Jeff and Danielle Pereira from Jeff's Bagel Run. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. This is so exciting.
It's very exciting. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So I mentioned you used to both work in retail.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your background. What were you doing before you were making dozens of bagels every day?
All right. So I started my career, I graduated from the University of Florida and started working at Target in their leadership development program. So I was basically an assistant manager equivalent. Worked my way up through the company, a lot of leadership focus at Target. Was a store manager, and then I worked in the field in a food operations role, and then in an overall operations role, so logistics focused, for about 50 stores. So I did that for about 8 years, and then got recruited to work at Ross stores. So Ross Dress for Less. I was a district manager with them. So I managed upwards of 16 locations for the company, both in South Florida and up in the Orlando market. So that's my career, mostly retail leadership, operational focus. I'm definitely very passionate about efficiency and processes. So translated a lot to the bagel business, which you wouldn't think, but I think that's a big part of some of our success, is that operational background.
And Jeff, your background?
Not entirely different. Danielle and I actually met at Target years after, so I'm a little bit older than she is, but I worked at Target for about 13 years. Did a number of different jobs there. I started as a cart attendant right here at the Oviedo Target store when I was going to school at UCF. And then I moved on to a couple different companies. I worked for Apple retail. I was a store manager there. And I also worked with Adidas Group as well as the North Face.
So how do you go from places like that to making bagels and being successful bagel business owners?
Yeah. So I mean, you'll tell a story better than me. So you can tell.
All right. So in August of 2019, I was laid off. I was working in senior living. I'd been recruited away from retail and was great. I was home a lot more. It was a really good job, but I was the low man on the totem pole, so to speak, and I was let go. And I stayed home with the kids. So Danielle ended up going back to work. She had been home with the children, and she's like, "Why don't you just take a break? Stay home, and I'll go back to work." And I did that. It was awesome. It was the first time I hadn't worked in 30-something years. It was pretty wonderful, and we had some overlap. And she said, "Why don't you make me a bagel?"
Just at home one day, you were just sitting in the living room?
We were driving to Winter Park to get bagels. So you don't realize when you're just picking up bagels in your normal life, how often you're near a good bagel shop. And I was out in Lake Mary and I was in Winter Park for the job that I was in, and I would just grab a dozen from our favorite bagel shop out there and bring them home, and we'd freeze them, and then suddenly the freezer stash ran out. We had no bagels, so we were both home. We had that overlap when neither of us were working, and we were driving to Winter Park 45 minutes to get bagels, and we're like, this is silly. There's no bagel shop on our side of town. So she said, "Why don't you make me one?"
Yeah, ultimately, I was just wanted him to stay busy, not get depressed, right. I mean, being laid off is, obviously it's now after COVID, many people have experienced this, but I think for him at this point in his life, it was a shock,
kind of traumatic.
Yeah, and I wanted to make sure that he just maintained a good sense of worth and I was like, all right. And I also truthfully did not think it would last. I thought it would be something that he would try. It'd be whatever, didn't work out, he'd go play golf. It was, I don't know, on a whim, I guess. But I did keep feeding your sort of obsession. So I buy him better.
So you guys always liked bagels?
Obsessed. It's my favorite food. I'm from New York. As a kid, I was a very picky eater, but I loved bagels. My mom would every Saturday we go to the bagel shop. She'd hand me a plain bagel in the backseat of the car. Very core memory for me. And I've always looked to replicate this in my adult life.
Yes.
We lived in South Florida. It was a better bagels, but I wanted that experience. Very special to me. So,
and did you have any connection to a New York style bagel?
Who doesn't love a bagel? And
right.
I don't trust those people. So I think I always loved a bagel as part of my breakfast. And Danielle's passion, we'll say, for bagels definitely has rubbed off on me over the years. And we would, as part of our travels, wherever we would go, we would try to find great bagels. Whether we were in a new city or somewhere, we'd say, "Hey, where's a great bagel shop?" And we would go enjoy that together. And it was something we did. And so when she said, you should make me a bagel, it didn't seem odd. It just seemed like something that felt right. So I decided to try to make it. And
How was that first bagel?
awful. Oh, awful. Terrible. I mean, you have to, like, we should rewind. Like, I never bake anything prior to starting bagels that didn't come out of a box. So cakes from boxes, brownies from boxes, take and break cookies. Like, I didn't bake. Like, I had no baking experience whatsoever, no formal
Did you
training.
just Google how to make a bagel?
Yeah, the internet and lots of books, reading. Like, it's amazing the amount of tutorials that are available to learn how to bake in general. And then the bagel process was just about recipe testing. You know, and I had watched plenty of Food Network and seen lots of other people making food. And so I just did what I thought I should do. So I just started making different batches with slightly altered ingredients. Danielle would come home and say, this is horrible, this is better, this needs more salt. And I would take her feedback and I would make slight adjustments. And I mean, you should have seen the counters. It was like just glass and plastic and metal bowls full of different doughs with all the ingredients written on the paper on top.
So when you were doing that, were you thinking maybe I'll sell these, or were you just thinking, wow, I just want to make my wife happy?
No, this was definitely make my wife happy. There was no in my mind.
Yeah.
I did not think we would be selling bagels. It was just, she said, make a bagel. I said, of course, let's go.
Okay.
And
Yeah, and he got obsessed, which was great. And I was like, all right, let's keep going. I was like, again, my end goal was to have a great bagel. And that was it. So I was like, keep going. We're getting closer. We're getting closer.
she went off to work one day.
Yeah.
And I set out to start, my test batches for the day. I don't know, 3 or 4 dozen that day. And she came home and I said, this is the one. I've got it. And she's like, I've heard this before.
Yeah, like so many times. I'm
She's
wasting so many calories on these terrible bagels.
But I handed it to her like pretty fresh from the oven and she bit into it and her eyes rolled back in her head and she's like,
This is it.
I'm a kid. I'm in my mom's Volvo and
Yeah.
I'm eating a bagel from the bagel shop in Long Island.
Yeah.
And
I was like transported. It was like I just got goosebumps, but it was pretty special.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like it worked.
so of course I started doing it again. I made them again and again and again, like days in a row, making the same bagel. And she told me that I have to go to work every day. I can't I have to fit in the work clothes that I'm required to wear.
Yeah, and if there's a bagel on my counter and I've eaten a whole meal, I will eat that bagel also because that's like how much I love like bagels they're my kryptonite. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but so I was like, you got to get these out of the house. Like I can't eat 2 bagels after I've eaten dinner. Like that is not a good choice.
So we started giving them away to friends and family, and those friends and family came back to us after I wasn't making as many because I figured out how many to make, and we started freezing them and doing stuff. And they said, we buy these from you. And I was like, no, but no one's going to buy bagels from me. This is crazy. You're going to buy bagels from me. And I said, okay, sure, you can buy some bagels. And so I sold some to some friends, and then they asked for them again. And I said, Danielle, maybe we should try to sell them. This was probably now November, December of 2019. So only a few months had gone by. It was a very accelerated few months. I mean,
Yeah.
I was making 5-6 dozen bagels a day for practicing. So it was a lot of energy put into it. But by December of 2019, we were selling bagels on the internet, which is crazy to say.
I mean, and I think because of our backgrounds, we had enough insight to know, okay, let's build a Facebook page, let's build an Instagram, let's build a website. Like this is like the basic stuff to have. So people are like, who are these people?
Yes.
And so we knew to do that.
Yeah.
And I think from there, once we had that, it was, kind of legitimized us, I guess. And then because the product itself was good, then word of mouth just spread and people had somewhere to go back to and say, okay, like, how do I
And you were
order?
all online.
Yeah.
So 4 months later, when the pandemic hits,
It was crazy. You tell the story better than me, but that was...
So we were, it was, March of 2020. And it was actually, it was our anniversary. We'd gone out to dinner and she was working at Ross Dress for Less and they had a big meeting plan, like this huge conference in Vegas where thousands of people, tens of thousands of people were going to come from all over the country to come to this meeting. And she gets text messages. They just start coming in. Her phone doesn't stop going off while we're at dinner that conference is being canceled, like something big's happening, don't know anything. But obviously the beginning of March was starting to get scary. And, Danielle immediately goes, we need to stock up on bagel supplies. And I'm like,
I don't know, something in my brain. I knew we were going to close. Like I had just had enough insight and experience and
you knew that Ross was going to close.
Yeah. So she knew something was
like
gonna
ahead
happen.
of time.
Yeah.
So we weren't telling people that, but you just, because of my position, I had a lot of insight and information. And so I just said, okay, like we need everything. We need flour.
Plan B, meaning bagel.
And I also didn't know if I'd have a job.
Yes.
I mean, I had just started in October. I'd worked for them before. I'd come back, but I didn't know. What if they said, we're going to let people go? And I think that really motivated us to scale within our home. I mean, scale is relative, right? If we look at what we're doing now compared to what we're doing then, it's much bigger. We just stocked up. We got a bigger mixer. We stocked up on flour and just like buckled down and said, all right, like, how do we make sure we can survive in the pandemic? And I honestly jokingly was like, you know what? Like, we can just trade bagels for like
canned goods,
yes,
toilet paper.
Like, I was thinking that survival. I wasn't thinking about money. I wasn't thinking about like the finances. Just more like, what if we can't get food? Like, which
we could survive on bagels.
Yeah.
We've got 1,500
trade
pounds
bagels.
of flour.
Yeah.
in our
But
garage.
for, like,
Even
medicine.
things like flour were kind of hard to find.
Flour was difficult.
Yeah.
We went through multiple suppliers during the pandemic. Multiple different types of flour, like or brands, but like still the same, like really high gluten, high protein flours. But we, in the beginning of March, we had, I don't know, maybe 20 dozen bagels a week. We were like selling to people randomly. They'd send us a message on Facebook or Instagram and say, hey, I'd love to buy some bagels. I mean, I was driving 4 bagels to a sweet old woman in Claremont every week because she just wanted 4 bagels. Like, I mean, that's how small this business was. And then everyone scrolled a little bit deeper because they were home after the stay home orders set in. And next thing you know, we're getting hundreds of messages. Inconceivable amounts of people wanting to order bagels from us, and we're suddenly booked 6 weeks out every day, 7 days a week, baking dozens and dozens of bagels, and we had to change something. So I'd made some friends along the way, which I think is the coolest part about this story is the people we've met, the community that we've been building and associating ourselves with and becoming a part of. And I called him and I said, I need to move everything online, like the ordering everything. And he's like, I've been waiting for this phone call. I knew you would. He's like, I got you. And he sent me like 6 text messages with exactly what we needed to do to build this website that was going to allow us to create an online ordering system and make it a little bit more, I don't know, like a democratized environment to get bagels.
Because people were just like DMing you.
Like,
hey,
to the tune of like
bagel.
300 messages all coming in at the same time because we did like a bagel drop. So we would release inventory like it was a concert ticket or like the newest like sneaker or album, like with a very limited quantity. And so we'd get 200-300 messages all at the same time.
And I was personally managing them myself, and
it was a mess.
It was not efficient. It was stressful. And then it just wasn't, I mean, it worked in the beginning, and then we grew too fast. And so we were able to get an online system and ordering and still do bagel drops, but the system did it for us. So it's like you hopefully get there fast enough to click on your order, your dozen bagels on this date. And then that really helped us kind of understand our demand too. And
for sure, because we could get analytics from the backside of the website where there would be, as the drop was coming, we would unlock the website and people would flood in to try to buy the products. And we would have 1,200 unique users on the website, like 3 minutes before the site opened. And then that number would grow to like 1,500. And then we'd have 70 orders available. There was it was like the demand was just too high. So as we kind of marched into May of 2020, the world started to open up a little bit in Florida, at least. We got an opportunity to do a pop-up event, which was the first live in-person event that we did. And I don't know if it was people were tired of being home after 2 months, but we had like a line of like 150 people to buy like 30 dozen bagels. And we immediately limited it to like 6 bagels per person. We knew we had to make something happen. And there were so many people still in line after we sold out of bagels that we took everyone's name and email address and we emailed them like a special link so they could order bagels. So we didn't know. Like we were like...
Where was this pop-up event?
It was actually one of our neighbors is the pastor at Citrus Church in Horizon West out in Winter Garden. And he had a retail space next to our daughter's elementary school that they used for small group meetings and things like that. And it was like his office because they didn't have a home church at the time. Anyway, he said, come and use our space. And I said, awesome, great, we'll do it. And so we popped up and it was insane. It was amazing. And of course that got a lot of notice. And then people were like, when are you coming to do the next market? When are these happening? We started getting invites to different markets. And I was coaching my daughter's soccer team, and I wasn't available on Saturday mornings to do a farmer's market. Like, I can't do that. Like, I got to coach my soccer team. So we really held off a lot of stuff until the fall. And then the fall of 2020, we started doing some markets, and demand was really high. Like, there was just always a line. Every time we had, 40, 50 dozen bagels was the most we could make for a Saturday market, and we'd sell out in under an hour.
Wow.
It was wild. And I think it was probably February or March. I can't remember exactly. I think it was February of 2021. We did a market, and they were going to cancel it because the weather was awful. It was like about to thunderstorm, something crazy. Like, the other vendors were packing up. We had a line of people. They'd been standing there for an hour to get bagels. Like, I mean, they were already there before we get there. They would show up before we got there. They're waiting in the rain. They're ready to go. And we sell like the first like 6 or 8 customers, and the sky just opens up, like complete downpour. Danielle's like, protect the bagels. Cover the bagels. Everyone is getting soaked. We are, unbeknownst to us, we were like at the apex of where the parking lot drained. So we're standing in about a foot of water. Our customers are getting drenched. There was a woman in line who'd come from Winter Park who was like, I'm not getting out of line. She bought an umbrella from the person in front of her.
That was true.
It was crazy. And we sold every bagel that day. And everyone stood in line and got soaking wet. And we kept the bagels dry, and they left. And we got home, and we said, we have a business. Like, this is a business. We can do something with this. And maybe we should. Like,
right. And I have to be honest, the entire time I was very resistant because my career, was growing. I was being, groomed to take a promotion. There was a lot of things going on in my career that I was like not really ready to give up or put aside. And I definitely struggled with like deciding, okay, how do I have, one foot in two things? Because ultimately the bagel runs both of us. Like, it just takes both of us to run.
And that's risky when you've got kind of this shared thing. You have young kids, you have health insurance, you have a salary, you have, like you know what you're walking into.
Yes. I had stock options. I mean, I had a lot of financial success tied up in my career that I had literally gone back to work. I was a stay-at-home mom, went back to the same company I had left. And, so we were always having this kind of dialogue of like, I don't know. All right, can you do it without me? And I can keep working. And I think in that moment, I started to let go of that, like maybe there is something else here. Like, there's something special. It's like lightning in a bottle. What does this look like? And I like the door opened like a crack.
That's still bold though, because I mean, you have mortgage payments, you have car payments, you have this and that, and these kids are relying on you to make all that happen.
Well, and Jeff has 2 older kids from his first marriage, so we're supporting 4 kids plus us, and it was interestingly enough, my work life got less fun. We'll put it that way. And I was definitely not in a great place. The workload was incredibly high. I was traveling a lot. So it kind of was like, I don't know, the stars aligned for sure. Yeah. But as things were growing with the bagel business and the potential grew, I started to see that as a path out of retail, out of managing so many people.
Plan.
Yeah.
Yes.
It took a lot of convincing, by the way.
Well, Danielle activated me. She was like, she likes to say that all the time. She activates me to do something, and she'll say, you should look at that. And I think it was after that market, she's like, okay, well, maybe we should look and see if there's like a commercial space, or you can find a place that you could use as a commissary and like ghost kitchen from, and you can expand, and we can take it slow. I don't go slow. So we had started looking for places and spaces, and a couple fell through.
Well, and it seems like after the pandemic, more retail spaces opened up.
There were some, there were definitely. I mean, the space we are in now was a kind of like a casualty of COVID. It was a former restaurant that just, when people started staying home and there wasn't as much foot traffic in the plaza, the business found it hard to operate. And so like they had to close, and we got, we're fortunate. We moved into a 2nd-gen kitchen that was, pretty ready to go for us.
Well, and I think the landlord took a chance on us because there was another spot that we thought we had, and that landlord we didn't have enough credibility or,
financial.
They turned us down. Yeah. And I love to drive by that spot, by the way. I'd be like, we could have been there, and we'll see what happens, but, happy for them. But this landlord for sure, when we went to meet him, we brought our bagels with us, and I had a full business plan, and I learned a lot from like that first experience where we didn't get the spot, and said, what can I do differently for this landlord? And
that is shocking, because I don't think many people realize that you think you find a space, you say, here's my money, and, let me move in.
No, we weren't financially viable because we didn't have enough. I mean, we had our financials. We had, this is what we've done from home. This is what we think we can scale. But someone else went in there that probably had a lot more capital. And we've never taken money. We don't have any investors. Everything is through our own. Yeah. We don't have any debt. So I think that's a huge part of like our success too, is like our financial decisions are part of, I think, what's helping us grow so fast in the second location. But, money in the bank matters when you're trying to open a new business. Yeah. And people don't realize, I didn't realize that for sure.
We didn't know. Yeah. It was definitely.
It's like getting approved for a mortgage.
But you're just trying to lease this space.
Yeah. But it's like even trying to get a rental,
But when you think about like the terms of a lease on 5 years, we talked about this a lot recently because we obviously have a second location, and like, we have people who advise us. We have other business owners that have been operating one or two or more locations that we become friendly with, that we talk to. We have an attorney, we have an insurance agent, we have an accountant, we have a lot of people,
like a network of people that
support the Bagel Run. Yeah. And when we were thinking about like the second location, we were talking to our insurance agent, and he's like, well, you should do this. And I was like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. When there's all these little nuggets that come out from these other people who operate. We've run businesses for other corporations. We've never run our own. So this is a lot of newness for us. And I think with the space that we're in now in Ocoee, we were walking the space, and the landlord wasn't there. It was the landlord's representative, the real estate agent. And he's like, listen, a lot of chefs can make great lasagna. Doesn't mean they can run an Italian restaurant. And I think when he said that, like, Danielle immediately knew, like, we need to have a great business plan. Yes. We need to bring bagels for the landlord. Yeah,
you're exactly right.
Because you have to have a great product, but you also have to say, hey, listen, this is, we've done X revenue and made this many bagels from home, and this is how we operate. And so I think those were important things that, someone took a chance.
Well, we've actually interviewed a lot of restaurant owners on this show who say they can't cook. They hire the chef, and they're running a business. And so it's two very separate things.
It really is. And like, Jeff's not a trained baker, but I am a trained operator. That is my background. That's my passion. I love it.
And a trained taster.
That is true.
You are
aficionado, right?
The official taste tester.
So I think that is part of our success. Our secret sauce is, yes, we have a great bagel, but we also understand a lot about what it takes to like manage people, run a business, build relationships, build a community, build a network. Because all those things were super part of our, they were part of our success in our careers. And a lot of that is translating that I didn't think would. I just thought, like, you make great bagels and you sell them. Yeah. But there's so much more to it.
So 1 year ago, you opened your first brick-and-mortar location. Now you're planning to open a second location in Orlando's College Park neighborhood. Yeah. Tell us, how that came about and when you guys will actually open your doors. It's like everyone inundating you with that question.
We don't know. Yeah.
That's the number one most asked question at the shop. The current shop is, when you open College Park?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So how did that come about? That's Eric Bellinger is the former owner of and founder of Bellinger's Bagels, which was a Montreal-style bagel shop right there in that location.
And on Edgewater.
On Edgewater, on the corner of Edgewater and Fairbanks. He shared on his social media that he was diagnosed with cancer. He was sick, and he was going to be selling his business or closing permanently. Before he announced that, he had reached out to me. We had been tied together as these, new bagel options, like these upstarts making bagels from their houses, going to farmers markets, selling on the internet. Like, who are these people selling delicious bagels? And we kind of got connected that way back in, that was during right before the pandemic. Yeah. I know there was a Orlando Sentinel article, and we got connected, and so we kind of became friendly and started talking about business and like how to scale or what to do, and we had a relationship. And
just like a note, sorry to jump in, but I think that is really important as part of our story is like the relationships that we've been building with like different businesses that are like ours, whether it's like cottage food bakers or even in the bagel space. Like we believe that there can never be enough bagels. So I think this relationship with Eric is really indicative of kind of how we are. Like, how do we support each other? How do we support small businesses, even in the same space? And like, unbeknownst to us, that relationship ended up really working in our favor.
Yeah, you're stronger together.
Yeah, like 100%. Like, and we can learn from each other. Like, people have given us so much advice and so much guidance and support along the way. And like, we try to pay that forward as much as we can. So we have tons of small businesses that reach out and ask questions, and we always try to say, okay, like, here's what we did, or here's some ideas. And I think like with Eric, like we went back and forth with some really interesting ideas and thoughts, because we were both doing farmers markets, and like, you know, we weren't doing it. We were just doing it to support one another. And, you know, and then it ended up like that relationship paved the way for our next step. So I don't know. I just think that's important.
He called me and he said, listen, this is what's going on for personal reason. I'm going to be closing and I'm probably going to sell it. Do you want to buy the business? And Danielle and I actually had it to breakfast. It was a Monday morning. It's like our time together. And I was like, Eric, you know, we should take this call from Eric. So we took the call. We're in the car. And as soon as he said, you know, I'm closing and I, you know, want to know if you want to be interested in the business, Danielle looks at me, immediately melts and shakes her head no. Yeah. It was like instant. And I'm like, yes, like, let's go. Like, this is a great opportunity. She's like, no, how do we do it?
We, by the way, drove immediately there to check out the space. So it wasn't a hard no. It was a soft no.
But yeah, so we met Eric that day, actually, and we looked at the space and took some time to think it over, and you know, we eventually came to some terms, and we ended up buying the business. I mean, we essentially all the assets, you know, all the things he'd acquired in the time of him being open, the ovens, the refrigeration, the mixer, like all the stuff you need to run a business, a bagel business. And you know, thankfully, like that landlord there was, you know,
they accepted you.
They
did not ask to see our financials. It's pretty interesting to see, though, kind of what, once you establish yourself in kind of that one location, then you get that credibility, and then I think it gets easier. But I think that first, you know,
the first one was
really challenging.
But there was you know, they were very favorable, and we were able to sign a lease there, and you know, we're excited.
So back to my first question.
Back to when we opened.
Again, we've had a really challenging month. Our son had some health concerns. That I was out of the business for 2 weeks, and then we got COVID, so we were out of the business for another week. So we basically lost about 3 weeks of what we thought we would. So we have hired a general manager. We're starting to staff and to do interviews for that location. So we're hoping 30 to 45 days.
Okay.
But, you know, with the supply chain, there is some equipment that we need, and it's a little bit more challenging right now. So we are just taking it day by day. And, you know, as soon as we're ready, like, and we also want to do it right. I think when you have an established business, you can't make as many mistakes. People aren't,
there's this level of expectation that people have when they walk in.
When we opened our shop in Ocoee, it was Danielle and I. It was like, people would come and stand in line, look straight to the back of the shop, watching me boil and bake bagels, sweating like from head to toe, because I was the only person scooping bagels, boiling, seasoning. She was the only person up front taking orders, and she's screaming back to me, I need a dozen everything. I need a dozen plain. And it was us. And so I think because it was us, and it was organically us and like authentically us, people gave us a lot of grace. Like, we had that room. But now, not to say people won't give us the space or the grace to make mistakes, but we don't want them to make mistakes. Like, we were okay going into shop one saying, we don't know what we're doing. We've never done this before. Like, it's okay. We'll figure it out as we go.
We also weren't as busy. I mean, if you we've grown so much in a year. I mean, people have found out about us. I mean, we were maybe selling 40 dozen bagels a day,
60 tops.
And now you're at what level?
Today's 80 for a Wednesday. So on the weekends, we're maxing out 120, 124.
So we're running out of time, but I do have some other very important questions. How do you make a bagel?
Flour,
okay,
yeast, malt, salt, and water.
Okay,
that's it.
And then we can actually see part of the process when you come into your store. I was in there and you had dough and you were cutting it and you were like rolling it and making it into the shape of a bagel.
Absolutely. Once the dough once the ingredients are made and the dough ball is created, we then cut and scale. We cut and weigh each piece of dough so that it's more uniform.
Yeah.
And then we shape it, we roll it
You
out.
seem like you just knew how much you needed, so as you were cutting them into
It's all weight
pieces.
though.
Yeah. It's
like a certain number of grams per bagel.
Yeah.
I mean, I think rough estimate is somewhere like north of 300,000 bagels that we've cut and rolled right now.
Yeah.
That's just in the shop. That doesn't include stuff we did at home for
Yeah.
a year and a half before we...
Yeah.
What is the most popular flavor of bagel?
Okay. Everything plain.
Is everything number one?
Everything and then plain. Those are the two. And then Asiago everything's really popular, and rosemary salt.
Rosemary salt, I think, is probably... So we sell the most everything in plain bagels,
Yeah.
bar none.
Yeah.
But everyone has a rosemary salt bagel in their bag.
Yeah, they're
So even
so
if you
good.
come in and you're like,
They're like,
I'll take 5 sesame bagels and 1 rosemary salt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I'll take 5 plain bagels and 1 rosemary salt. So that's the one I think that everyone is...
Once you
Pint
try
after.
it, you're into it.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then when I was in there, a gentleman walked in and he asked you to toast his bagel.
We do not toast bagels.
We do not have a toaster. In my opinion, and this is just for me personally, everyone has their own. I believe fresh bagels do not need to be toasted. I actually eat my bagel whole, like a donut, because that's just how much I love a fresh bagel. I'm not a cream cheese girl, so I just literally bite into
Yeah.
the bagel. But we ask everyone, hey, give it a try. Try it not toasted and see what you think
Yeah.
before. And some people don't like that answer.
And it's what's astonishing to me is that you're not a cream cheese girl, because I love cream cheese.
I don't know. Jeff is
Really?
A cream cheese.
I
just
love
don't
cream cheese as
Yeah.
well. It's delicious.
I could eat cream cheese plain.
Yeah.
Like I don't even need the bagel.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
We sell a lot of cream cheese. I mean, we're like a cream cheese factory as well as a bagel factory. But I just love I just love a bagel like as is.
and I personally partake in the rip and dip method of eating
Okay, I like that.
the bagel with cream cheese. So I'll tear off a chunk of bagel,
Yeah.
dip it in the cream cheese, and eat it that way
Yeah.
versus slicing and smearing.
I do also think like our no toaster is really also part of our model, our labor model. It's very
Right.
lean. We don't have a lot of space. We don't really have like the ability to slice and toast every bagel that we would never.
Right.
We'd be there for a long time.
Yeah.
And so it's also part of like our food licensing. We don't do anything prepared. That's why we don't do sandwiches. And so far, it's been really successful for us. Like the bagels are the star. Take them home, toast them, make a sandwich, do your thing. But for us, it's kind of like grab and go, and and it seems to work. I mean, the majority of people.
I think to be
they've
clear, we're
adapted.
not against toasting.
Yeah,
Like
we
toast
toast
your
at
bagel.
home.
Like I toast a bagel at home,
Yeah.
but like I also slather it with butter and put
Yeah.
some like cinnamon and sugar on there, and it's
Yeah.
delicious. But like I think that teach their own. We just don't do it at the
Yeah.
shop. Yeah.
Now, do you have any plans to have like a recipe book, to share some of this amazing talents you have with the masses in that regard?
I mean, I don't think we would share our recipe. I think that's part of our like.
Yeah, it's like your little trade secret.
Yes.
But like a bagel guide, tip
Maybe.
guide.
That would be really, I mean, reheating is definitely something we get a lot of questions on. So I think we use social media quite a bit to share a lot of that. Instagram, we have some like stories saved where you can see how to do those things. So I think we try to like organically share that information.
We did have a Girl Scout troop come in and make bagels with us one day.
That was
That's
cool.
fun.
That was fun.
Yeah,
We taught-
bagel making.
We did have like a bagel making class with the Girl Scouts, but I don't think the 7-year-olds were gonna like.
And I also saw
start
that
a
you made
business.
a surprise house visit for a birthday party.
I did. Yeah, we have an amazing community, and I think that's something that, like, that's the thing that became, I think, is most unexpected about this business. Having just the people around us that circle up around the Bagel Run, and Danielle and I personally, our family, are amazing. And I went to a birthday party. I made an appearance, which is crazy. I mean, my sister was texting me. She's like, "Are you like famous enough to make appearances at birthday parties now?" I'm like, I don't know if it's what that means, but yeah, like, I went to a birthday party. She and her family have been coming into the shop since we opened. They are like an actual mile down the road. Like they're very close. And the morning of the birthday party,
They had gone and catered.
They got-
we catered the party. And
it was a
"You
bagel
come
themed
by."
birthday party.
Yeah.
And
Which is amazing.
Mom came in and said,
Yeah.
she was talking with Danielle when she picked up all the stuff for the party. And she's like,
send me the address.
maybe if like Jeff could come by, that would
Yeah.
be great. And so Danielle was like, I'll get him to come by.
You know what's and kind of amazing about the community is that mom, the mom of the birthday girl, is a nurse at the hospital where our son was at, and so
The
like,
very next day. Like he was there
like
for
so
surgery.
there is like this community that is like so much of our life that she messaged us immediately, hey, he's here, like, what do you need? And it kind of just goes to show, like, we're just bigger than bagels. I mean, my passion for bagels is really about, like, bringing joy through bagels, right? And that's what we do. I think we've somehow accomplished that goal.
I think so.
Yeah,
yes.
and we built this community around it that very much aligns with, like, what I love about what we're doing, like the bagels themselves.
Well, to the point that when I was there was also a man who came into your store asking for a T-shirt that said Jeff's Bagel Run. So you're selling merchandise too?
Yeah.
We got merch too.
Yeah.
It's
awesome.
It's really become something that I don't think we ever thought it would be. I think we set out just to make a delicious bagel and make people happy. And, when we were delivering bagels to people's house during the pandemic, saying hi to people from the porch, 12 feet away, whatever it was, for some of those people was the only contact that they had all day, all week. And, whether it was me or Danielle or my father helped us with deliveries. And, there's some montage video somewhere of someone's Ring doorbell with my father delivering bagels during the pandemic. It's awesome. But I think that joy that those bagels brought to people in a time that was,
And we've gotten a lot of messages about how we've inspired people to, like, start their own business or take what they love and passion and make that into a business. I think that's some of those, like, other additional things that we didn't expect that have happened and continue to happen. And we're really proud of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Real quickly, where can people find you online and on social media?
At Jeff's Bagel Run, everywhere.
Yeah.
Like literally everywhere.
Instagram,
Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. We're not on YouTube.
No.
That's the only place we're now. Maybe one day.
But definitely TikTok Jeff does a really fun job at making TikTok content. And, so he's definitely interesting when people are like, I saw you on my For You page. And we're like, what? So
That's awesome.
I think that's been really fun.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff and Danielle Pereira from Jeff's Bagel Run, thank you so much for joining us today on Florida Foodie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Florida Foodie. We'd also like to thank our guests, Jeff and Danielle Pereira. You can find their business online at jeffsbagelrun.com or search Jeff's Bagel Run on all social media platforms. Be sure to follow Lisa Bell online. Search Lisa Bell News on Facebook and Instagram, or Lisa Bell News 6 on Twitter. You can also find Candace Campos on social media. She's on Twitter. Just search @Candace News 6, and on Facebook, search Candace Campos News 6. Also, a big thank you to our technical producers, Derek Mosier and Ryan Haley, our post-production audio engineer, Chris Flora, and our director, Joe Grennan. I'm the show's producer, Thomas Mates. Please take the time to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or you can tell a friend about us. It really helps us out. And you can find videos of all of our podcasts on clickorlando.com/FloridaFoodie, and be sure to sign up for the Florida Foodie newsletter while you're there.